Good evening, everyone. It's Andrew Sims here from SuiteFiles. Welcome along to our webinar today. I hope that you can all see my screen and everything is going well, and we can get underway in just a moment or two. Thank you to everyone who has so far joined in with the webinar. Okay, all right. Let's get started. So, as I mentioned, welcome along to our webinar today. I'd like to do a few introductions first. First of all, just to let you know who I am, my name is Andrew Sims. I'm the CEO and one of the founders here at SuiteFiles. A few weeks ago, we were up in London at Xerocon, and we were there with our friends from Bridge 3, who are also on the call here today. Bridge 3 are our exclusive distributor and implementation partner for SuiteFiles in the UK, so it's important that you know who they are and are aware of them, because if you're going to go ahead with SuiteFiles, you will be talking to the Bridge 3 team. A lot of people came to talk to us at our stand, but as with all these shows, we don't really get the opportunity to show you what SuiteFiles really is all about. We can talk, but obviously the best way to get a view for things is to actually see the system in action. So today we're going to have a bit of a demo, and we're going to spend 45 minutes or so going through a few slides just to position SuiteFiles and what it's all about, and then we're going to do a demo, and we're going to show you how SuiteFiles works, and in particular we're going to concentrate on our integration with the Xero Practice Manager and also how we work with email management. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. I am recording this webinar, so at the end of the session, we'll process that recording and we will send out a copy to everyone who was registered. So it takes a day or so for us to get that all done, so just watch your inbox for that recording when it comes out. If you've got questions, please type them into the Q&A panel in the Zoom application that we're using tonight. I will probably answer all questions at the end of the session rather than picking them up as we go. So please make sure that you do type those questions in when they come to mind, so that they're not lost and we can make sure that we address everything. And just, I guess, just a little reminder that this is an online session, and you're going to get the best experience from the webinar if you've closed down all of your other unnecessary applications. That way, you won't have bandwidth issues, and I guess also you probably won't have things flashing in front of you and letting you know, I guess, disturbing you as we go through the webinar. In terms of just a quick agenda for today, I'm going to do an intro into who we are here at SuiteFiles, just so you know a little bit more about us. We're going to show you how SuiteFiles works and how it could be useful to your business, and then talk a little bit about migrating to SuiteFiles and just a really high overview of the process and some common questions that people ask us. So let's get started. Who is SuiteFiles? So we're a little business. We're actually based in New Zealand. So I'm coming to you live from Wellington in New Zealand in the middle of the night here, actually. We have been in operation for nearly 7 years. We're a business that you'd say is born in the cloud. So everything that we do, over and above the fact that we're obviously selling cloud solutions, but everything that we do ourselves internally is totally cloud-based. So we've obviously drunk the Kool-Aid and bought into the whole idea that going cloud and running your business in the cloud is the most efficient way for doing things. We are a Microsoft partner. We've been a Microsoft partner since we started up, and have won a number of awards down here in New Zealand for the work that we've done in the Microsoft community, and in particular around obviously document management on the Microsoft Office 365 platform. Before we even formed the SuiteFiles business, Xero started an initiative called the Modern Practice. That was down here in New Zealand and in Australia, and what they were trying to do was help convince accounting firms that what they really should do is turn the server off and move everything to the cloud. And of course, there are a number of workloads that were involved with that. You had to do something with your email, you had to do something with your documents, you had to do something with your time and management systems as well. It wasn't just about putting the general ledger into the cloud. And there were a number of parties that were involved with that whole modern practice concept, and that was really where SuiteFiles was born. And the whole idea about helping accounting practices turn that server off and get their files into the cloud. SuiteFiles is designed, it's probably the slide should say for the small to medium business, but I don't think there's enough space there. Yeah, it's really an application that is designed for the small to medium business market. I think that's quite important to understand. We're not an application that was built for large enterprise organizations that has then been scaled back down to try and fit into small to medium-sized business. And we're also not a consumer app that was built for an individual to use at home and then try to actually bolt on some business functionality. We really were designed with the small to medium business at heart, and everything that we do is focused on businesses ranging in size. Well, we do have the one-man bands, but also up in size to a few hundred staff. And then not just about being part of that modern practice, but also what we do with SuiteFiles is provide the document management system for accountants that is cloud-based. If you're going to be working in that Xero ecosystem, SuiteFiles is the document management system of choice. So when we think about why you might want to use SuiteFiles, I guess it's probably a good idea to actually figure out what the problem really is that you're trying to solve. And from talking to accountants for many years, well, for 7 years now, and talking to thousands of accountants, the problem that we're really trying to solve is this. It's trying to find a place to keep all of your business documentation. So it's not just about your clients, although we'll focus on that a lot today, but it's all of your business documentation, keeping it in one place, being cloud-based, being easy to find everything, and really adds value with efficiency gains through the way that you're using the system. And so that's what we're really trying to do here at SuiteFiles, and that's what we think about all the time with everything that we're building here into the applications. Again, through lots of conversation with accountants over the last 7 years, I think I've been to a dozen Xerocons now, and a number of other events where we're always talking to accountants and finding out what they're after. There's 5 key things really that we see. First, obviously, cloud-based file management. Accountants that are talking to us are going through that journey of turning that server off, and they want to know what they should do with their files, and SuiteFiles is the option there. Email management. This is actually something that it took us a little bit of time to cotton on to, and we didn't really understand why anyone would want to do this. But now that we've seen it in action, it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you do it? It's a must-have. By email management, what I mean is the ability to save the content of your email very quickly and easily into your file management system. And in particular, I mean actually the emails themselves. It's not just the attachments. In those emails that your staff are sending and receiving every day, there is corporate information that you need to keep for your business. It's not information that should just be sitting inside one person's inbox. Everyone needs to be able to access it. So our email management module really aids with that. Integration with Xero. Obviously, accountants, the majority of accountants that are going down the cloud route, they're doing that because they're getting into the Xero platform. And integration with Xero's Practice Manager, and we've also got HQ integration. Today, we're going to talk about the Xero Practice Manager integration. We are the only document management provider that has a two-way integration with Xero, and I'll show you what all that means as we go through the presentation. When it comes to migration, and changing your file systems, or actually changing any system, I'm sure you're all aware, it takes time and energy, and often there's downtime. If you've already jumped onto the Xero systems, you'll know that migrating from your previous accounting software and practice management packages that you're using and moving to the new Xero packages takes time. There's effort involved with that, and sometimes that includes downtime where staff can't work for a small period while you get everything set up. With SuiteFiles, we really target the whole idea of a zero downtime migration. That is, you can walk away from your business on Friday night for the weekend, and by Monday morning, all your files have been migrated to the cloud and migrated to SuiteFiles, and they're there ready to go, and there's no interruption to your business. Another thing that everyone's really talking to us about and really wants is this whole idea of peace of mind and compliance. So we have a backup solution. What that does is every day it takes a snapshot of your file system and a copy of all the files that are in that file system. And we keep that backup for as long as you're a SuiteFiles customer. What that does is it allows you to go back to any point in time, any date, and see the exact structure of your file system and the exact version of all the files that were in the file system at that point in time. So if anyone comes and says to you, look, can you show me all the files for client X on the 1st of May 2017, you can go back to 1st of May 2017 in the backup and find client X and all the files that were in that client folder at that point in time. Okay, enough of PowerPoint. Let's now get into our live sites or our demo sites and show you exactly what SuiteFiles is all about. Okay, on the screen now is the SuiteFiles application. Just make sure I've got this full screen so you can see it. There we go. So, SuiteFiles is a browser-based application for working with your files. It's important to understand that SuiteFiles is built on top of Microsoft's Office 365 platform. We use Office 365 as the place where you store all of your files. So yeah, it is a prerequisite. You must have that Office 365 subscription, and it's got to be an Office 365 business subscription so that we can keep all of your files handy and we can actually access them and serve them up to you through the SuiteFiles system. When we put SuiteFiles together, we did a bunch of research, and it probably comes as no surprise that most people want their files set up in folder structures. We did do a lot of work in looking at how to use metadata and tagging files and how to structure things that way. But what we found was for most people in practice, they weren't that interested in tagging files. They were really much more interested in having a folder structure that they understood and could navigate their way around. So what we've got on the SuiteFiles home screen here are some folders. So these are my top level folders in SuiteFiles. And let's have a look in the clients folder because that's probably the most interesting one. And you click on the clients folder and open it up. You can see I've got a couple of emails that are sitting immediately under the clients folder, but I've also got a whole stack of subfolders here. You can simply scroll your way around and find the folders that you're looking for. Let's go for this one here, and you've got more subfolders and more files. So very simple and easy concepts that everyone's used to. It's folders. You just click on the folder name, it opens it up, and you can see the subfolders and the files within that folder. In order to get around the system, we do a few things just to make life a little bit easier for you. We have the concept of personal favorites for folders and for files. So just like you can bookmark a website in your web browser and you click on that bookmark link, it takes you to that website. We can do the same thing with files and folders. We can bookmark or mark a file as a favorite. You can see over to the right-hand side of all of these files here, there's a star. Now, when the star is being marked and clicked, it becomes yellow, and that makes that document in that line one of my personal favorites. And if the star is grey, that hasn't quite been favorited yet. So I can I'll just put a couple more in there. So you can now see that actually 4 of those 5 files have been marked as personal favorites. These then become available to me when I go to the favorites view in the system. You can actually see I've got quite a few files now, 17 of them marked as favorites. And these are just simply links to the original document in its location inside the SuiteFiles folder structure. You can also have personal favorite folders. So same concept, simply clicking on that folder name is going to take you to the folder itself. You'll see all the subfolders and all of the files within that folder. Favorites is probably not an overly exciting feature, but probably the one that I personally use the most in SuiteFiles. I have 3 or 4 files that I've marked as favorites in my SuiteFile system that I use every day, and I open those 3 or 4 files every day because they're various things that I need to work on in terms of running my business. And if you decide that you no longer want to have a folder or a file as a favorite, you just simply uncheck the star and it's removed from that list. So you could have favorites for a short period of time or for a very long period of time, just depending on your needs. In terms of getting around there's a couple of other things we do. I'm going to use the example of the clients folder because this is in my demo site the one that's best set up for this. You can see in the clients folder, I've got this at the top of the screen here. I'm just highlighting. It says 370 subfolders. Now I can scroll down through that list of subfolders. It's only 370. Most of our accounting clients have thousands of subfolders, and I think one of our clients has something like 32,000 client subfolders. Now, that took me that period of time just to get to the bottom of the list, and that was only 370 subfolders. So what I can do is I can use a filter or a sort of a quick step option where I can start typing some text into this filter text box above my client folder list here and hit enter. So I just put the letter Z in there and hit enter, and it's taken me now to all of the subfolders in the clients folder that start with the letter Z. The way the filter works is it looks at whatever letters you type into the text box, and it's trying to match the subfolders that start with these letters. So it's not a search, it's really just matching on the start of the name for all of the subfolders that we've got here. So there we go, ABC. There are my clients there that start with ABC. If you want to search, we can do that as well. So we've got a search text box in the top middle of the screen, and if I click on there and type something in, type the word test, you can see a bunch of results have come back. So we've got 3 different, I guess what you call categories of results that have come back. The first ones, these ones with the grey person-like icon to the left of them, these are actually client folders. So they come back first in that list. Then we've got some files, and then we've got other folders that are sitting within the file system that have come back as well. So these are the non-client folders. What we've done here is we've actually used what we call quick search. So just typing into the text box and letting this drop-down list of results show is our quick search option. Now, quick search is not comprehensive. It hasn't searched over the entire file system to find every folder and every file that meet the criteria. It is designed to be quick and do things nice and simply for you. And it shows you a limited set of results based on what the system finds first, what files might have been marked as favorites or folders marked as favorites, and also files that you've recently been working in or might have had shared with you. And we get a maximum of 7 results for client folders, files, or other subfolders. If you need to be more refined, you can type more text into that text box, and yeah, the results are going to be more refined for you. Of course, especially if you're after a file, only getting 7 results might not be that great. So what we then do is we can enact or enable what we call our advanced search. Advanced search is just simply done by hitting enter after typing some text into that text box. And that's going to search across my entire database of files. And there you go, it's come back now with 356 results. So I've gone from having 7 files in the quick search to 356 files in my advanced search. These are files that for some reason or another have all met the criteria of the word test for the search. Of course, going from or adding, 349 new files into the search results might mean that it's still just as hard for me to find the file that I'm looking for. In quick search, it might not have actually shown. In full search or advanced search, you might find that you've got way too many files to choose from and you can't easily find what you're looking for. If that's the case, we can use the refiners that we've got over on the left-hand side of the search results here. For example, maybe it's a PDF file, so I can just click on PDFs there, and now you can see here's the 15 PDFs in the file system that meet the results of the criteria for the word test. We can also filter based on client folders, financial year folders, who last modified the file, and when the files were last modified. So hopefully that gives you a good idea. Search is really powerful, and also in terms of just the SuiteFiles system itself, it's pretty straightforward. It's about folders and files. You navigate your way around. There are some things that we can do to make finding things a lot easier, and it's just simply a case of opening files as you need them. Okay, now that we've done that, let's. What I want to do is I want to flip over and show you our integration with the Xero Practice Manager, because I'm sure, given that everyone's come to this webinar because they were at Xerocon, you're really interested in knowing how we work with Xero. So here we've got my Xero Practice Manager, and this is all hooked up to my SuiteFiles account. First of all, what I want to do is just, I guess, go through probably a relatively standard process, which is you bring on a new client. And when you bring on a new client, you come into the Practice Manager and you create a new client. And we're going to call this, I don't know, let's just call it London Accountants. And we hit save. What happens at this point in time is that the Xero Practice Manager is going to start looking inside of SuiteFiles, and it's going to try and find a subfolder in the clients folder. So in here, with the same name as the client that we've just created in the Practice Manager. So in this case, London Accountants. This pop-up screen has come up because we can't find that client folder. So it's asking us, would we like to create a new client folder inside of SuiteFiles for this client? And of course, the answer is yes, we want to do that. I can also, at this point in time, apply a folder template. A folder template is simply a standard set of subfolders that we wish to apply to the new folder that we're creating. So we're creating a new client here, and this client is a company, so we're going to set up the company folder structure. And we just hit create. That's now created that client folder for us. And what it's also done is it's inserted this link into the Practice Manager where we can now, which we can click on, and it's going to take me straight to that client folder in my SuiteFiles demo site. And there it is there. You can see London Accountants, and here's a set of subfolders. There's multiple levels of subfolders that are set up with my folder template, so you can have whichever structure you really need for your business all set up here ready to go. So again, just a little efficiency gain that you've got there. Nice and easy, probably saves a couple of minutes every time you do it. But if you think about how many times you bring on a new client, that's all going to add up over the course of a year. The connection between SuiteFiles and the Xero Practice Manager is really built around this client name. The client name must match the client folder name in SuiteFiles. So if you turn around and said, well, I need to edit this client name in the Practice Manager because they've changed their name for some reason, you will also get prompted in doing that to see whether you want to edit and update the client name for the SuiteFiles folder. Likewise, if you archive this client in the Practice Manager, it's also going to ask you, would you like to archive the client folder in SuiteFiles? Anyway, now that we've done that, let's continue the process. Let's actually start adding a bit of information into the Practice Manager about, actually let's give someone's full name. about our client. So let's do this. I want to add some contact details. Bear with me, please, while I do this. So we've got some address details. We're going to put in some information here about doing the GST, which is our equivalent of your VAT. I'm going to put some more client information in here. These what I'm actually filling in here now are actually custom fields that we've set up inside the Practice Manager. So this was actually set up for us by one of our partners down here we're down in Australia, who sets up the Practice Manager for a lot of accounting firms. This is their standard way of installing things. So a lot of accountants down here have this kind of setup where they've got all these custom fields and things that they can fill in and keep some really good information about their clients. So we've got information now all set up and populated into the Practice Manager. The last thing I want to do is fill in a contact. So we're going to have John Woods, and I want to put a salutation in here. Okay, that's done. Now all my data is complete, and I can actually, the reason I've done all this is I can show you that I can now start to use this data that's all set up in the Practice Manager to populate document and email templates inside SuiteFiles. So if we flip back to the SuiteFile system, and we're just going to have a look at our template gallery. In the template gallery here, I have a demo template that I've set up. This template here, you can see, has these custom fields that have, or merge fields, some people might like to call them, that have been set up and put into the template for us. This is information that we're pulling back out of the Practice Manager, and we're going to pre-populate this document and update all of these custom fields. Now, some of the custom fields are pretty straightforward. Business name, for example, is simply pulling back one piece of information about our client and swapping it into where that field is. This address information, though, is has got some logic behind it. So you may have a postal address, or you may have a physical address for your client. You might not know which one you have if you've only got one of those options available in the Practice Manager. So what we do with these address tags or fields is we're first of all looking for the postal address, and if that doesn't exist, we're going to put in the physical address. We also have some other kinds of logic. So one of the things that I did was fill in the services required matrix here, or check boxes. If you have a yes, no, or a true, false value for any information in the Practice Manager, we can start to put some conditional logic around that so that we can show various bits of information or various pieces of text inside your template. So the example I've got is here. So just in this checking some details, in this bullet point for checking the details is a statement which simply says that the client does or does not wish to receive the monthly newsletter. If the value is no, then obviously they don't want to receive the monthly newsletter. And you can see here there's some it's reasonably long logical custom fields that have been put in place, basically checking for the value of that checkbox. And if the value is no, we're going to put do not into the sentence. So reasonably straightforward conceptually. As I put in logic around the yes, no, true, false values that you'll see inside the Practice Manager. Then we've got a whole bunch of other fields that we're filling in. Again, some of these are just straight swaps of text. Others do have some logic in behind them. So let's actually have a look at how we would use that template now that it's all set up. So let's go and find our London accountants client. And let's now create a new document for this client based on that file template. So file from template. Let's just quickly find the template itself. And I've clicked on the template. Now you can see down here, I've actually selected my client. So because I'm hooked up to the Xero Practice Manager, and because I'm in a client folder in SuiteFiles, the system has worked out that there's actually a corresponding client folder, client record inside the Practice Manager. So we're automatically going to choose that client. We've also given the file a name. So this name is just actually a suggestion. It's based on the name of the template and then the name of the client, but I could overwrite this and type any name in here that I like. I'm not going to give it a new name. I'm just going to use the default, and I'm going to click the Create button. So what happens now is that a new file with that name that it had is going to be created in this folder for this client, and we're going to populate the template with information from the Practice Manager. So you can see there's the business name, here's our postal address fields that have been put in, there's our salutation, the idea of that conditional logic. Here you can see here it says you do not wish to receive a monthly newsletter, so it's used the no value in that, and you can see all the other fields that have been filled in, and the document is ready. So with a small amount of effort, you can put some really powerful templates together, and then when you've done that, assuming that the Xero Practice Manager is the source of truth for all of your information about your client, you can pull that information out of the Practice Manager and use it to populate documents of any description. And you can see there's that file sitting in SuiteFiles. So yeah, really nice, easy, and powerful way of doing things. Okay, let's get on and have a look at our email integration. So I'm just going to fire up my Outlook demo profile. And when that opens up, what you'll see will be on the right-hand side of the screen, it'll stand out, you'll have the SuiteFiles Outlook add-in. So here it is here. Let's just make things a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so over on the right here, here's my Outlook add-in, and you can see we're actually connected to the same folder structure. Oh, actually, I'm not. I'm connected to the wrong one. So let me just check that. Now I'm connected to the here it is, the SuiteFiles site that we've been having a look at. If we navigate our way around, here's our clients folder, our friend London Accountants. There it is there. So there's the folder that we created for the London Accountants and that document that we added into that folder. Now, the whole purpose of this add-in is to make life really easy for you when taking information out of your inbox and trying to put it into your file system so that all members of your organization can access that information should they need it. So what does that really mean? Well, okay, so emails come into your inbox, and like this email that's open at the moment, some of them have attachments, and all of them will have some kind of text in them. Now, sometimes when you get an email, it's just the attachment that you're interested in keeping, and if that's the case, you can simply grab the attachment from the preview here, drag and drop it over to the Outlook add-in, and you can see it's now just simply added that file into my London Accountants folder. If we go back to SuiteFiles, update the screen, you can see that file is now sitting in the system there. When if you have an email that's sitting inside your inbox and you actually want to keep the content of that email as well as the attachment, it's really easy to do that as well. All you need to do is grab that email from your inbox and drag and drop it over to your SuiteFiles add-in, and you're done. Simple as that. When you do that with an email, it also tags it. Hopefully you can see it just in the email here, that it's now been added to SuiteFiles. You can also pick up multiple emails at any one time. Just grab a few and drag and drop them over. And now you can see they're all loaded into the SuiteFiles system. If I refresh again, you can see I've got all my emails sitting here. So yeah, really simple, easy, straightforward way of getting email or content out of your inbox and into your SuiteFiles system or your file system so that other members of your organization can see that information. Of course, getting email in is one way of doing it. Another thing that you're after is trying to get information out. So how can I attach a file to an email that I want to send? So if you open up an email, you click attach from, you've got this attach from SuiteFiles button. This brings up my browser here and I can navigate my way around the system. There's the London Accountants. We just do that quick client search for them. And you can see here are my files and folders that I've got for this client. If I want to add a document to the to my email, just simply click on the document and it just attaches it just like that. So very simple and easy again to get information into email as you're sending it out. Another thing that we can do with our email is create email templates. So I can type up some email and I could save this as an email template just by clicking the Save as Email Template button and giving it a name. You click the Create Template option and that will actually save that email template into your SuiteFile system, and it means that any one of your staff can then use that template as the basis for a new email. Now, I didn't save that one because what I'll do is I'll show you an email template that I've actually got set up. And in this type, at this stage, what I do is I go Insert from Template, and I choose that template there, and let's just show what it looks like. So it's got a subject line. The subject line has one of our custom fields in it that we were using in document templates. We've got an attachment. The attachment has custom fields in its name. And also if I open the attachment, which is just happening on my other screen, you will see custom fields. Oh, there it is there. Custom fields in the actual attachment itself. And then of course we've got the body of the email and we've again got custom fields in that. So as you can imagine, what I can do now is I can take that email template and I can actually choose one of my clients from the Xero Practice Manager. Is our London Accountants client, and I just click the pre-populate option. And quick as anything, you can see that we've got the subject line is populated with the information that we had in there. The attachment has had its name updated, and we can open the attachment and see that all the fields in here have been updated as well. And we've also got the fields that were actually in the body of the email have been updated too. So again, just like you can do with your document templates, you can create some really powerful, simple to use email templates, and you can suck information out of the Practice Manager into these templates and pre-populate it. If the Practice Manager is a source of truth, obviously you're not going to make mistakes in copying and pasting information into the wrong place, or missing things that you're supposed to be updating, or maybe even you might have staff who think that they can just remember the information and type it in and make typos or get things wrong. So trying to eliminate those errors and also trying to make you more efficient in terms of the way that you're putting everything together. The last thing with the email integration is that if I send an email, I can also save a copy of that into my file system. So I get this pop-up that asks me, do I want to save that email? The answer is yes, and I'm going to choose my new client and click send and file it. And that email is going to get saved into this folder here that I've got open on the right-hand side in my Outlook add-in. I do have to refresh for the sent emails, and you can see there it is there. It's the third one down that list. Righty-ho, that is the demo side of things. What I'm going to do now is switch back to the PowerPoint and just do a couple more slides, and then we'll be able to get into the questions. We've had a couple of questions, and we'll get to those shortly. So migrating. So I said I was going to talk to you about some things, common questions people ask us about migrating. Because it is a big thing, especially if you're coming from an existing document management system where you might need all of your information extracted from it. So migration options. There are two opposite ends of the spectrum, really. Some people actually migrate nothing. Quite legitimate. Often they'll be smaller businesses, and maybe they're even just starting out and they don't have a lot to migrate, but certainly some businesses will migrate nothing, and they'll just start populating SuiteFiles as and when required. And what I mean by that is you might be doing some work for a client, you haven't set up their client folder in SuiteFiles, so you do that, and then you start putting the appropriate files into those client folders, and they leave all of their existing file systems in place because that's appropriate for their business at the time. That's one extreme. The other extreme is you migrate everything. And we have tools and processes that can help you take all of your files from an existing file system or just a file server and migrate it and move it up to SuiteFiles from that server. That migration, when you're doing everything, obviously is yeah, it's really just picking it up and copying it from the server to the cloud for you. What can be migrated? Well, the answer to that is pretty much anything and everything that you've got on your file server. There are certain file types that you would never migrate. You know, Windows actually creates a bunch of system files that you would never copy up to SuiteFiles. I would also suggest that maybe you wouldn't want to migrate people's, your staff members, personal photo albums or music libraries and things like that. SuiteFiles isn't designed for that kind of thing. What we do, though, is we can take all of your business files and we copy that folder and file structure that you've got on that server, and we copy it exactly as it is into SuiteFiles. The real benefit of doing that is you're not changing anything up. People still know where all the files are because it's the same structure that they're used to having when they're working from the server. What can we migrate from? Well, just about anything, really. We've done a bunch of migrations, of course, just from straight file servers where we're copying folders and files across. We've done migrations from other cloud storage solutions like Dropbox or Box. They're pretty straightforward as well. And then we can actually also migrate from other document management systems. And for accountants, that could be a DocuSoft or a virtual cabinet or any of those kinds of systems. Those things take a little bit longer when you're doing it from another file management system, but it's still a reasonably well-defined process that we've got for doing that, and we can make it pretty simple for you. What's the process? Okay, so the process really is simply when you're ready to go for a migration, someone will have a look at your setup, what you've currently got on where your files currently are, to scope out just how much work is involved. Are we extracting from another file management system, or is it just a straight file server that you're uploading? When we're doing that, obviously a plan is created, a time frame as well, so understanding when you want to have all the files migrated by. We'd generally choose a weekend closest to that, and then on the Friday evening, people would get on board, start the migration process for you, with the plan of having everything done by the Monday, and they'd come into the office and be working with SuiteFiles, and then you can run training around that as well. Who does it? Well, again, a bit like the migration options when you could migrate everything or migrate nothing. Who does it? Again, you've got options. You can do it yourself. I certainly know have customers who have migrated their own file systems to SuiteFiles. It can be problematic trying to do large volumes of data yourself. So my recommendation always is that, you know, if you've got sort of upwards of 10 gigabytes of data, and that's all you've got to migrate, then yep, give it a go, do it yourself. But if you've got more than that, then you start to want to think about using tools and automated processes for doing it, simply because it will take time. You know, uploading 10 gigs of data to the internet is a process that you've just got to sit there and manually do, and it's going to take a number of hours. Or if you you want to get someone to use the tools to do it, obviously our partner Bridge 3 are other people in the UK who are doing implementations for us. So they will use a specialist tool set that can automate the process. These tools provide a full output of what's happened, so we can actually define for a specific file exactly where it's come from, where it goes to in SuiteFiles, and maybe if there was an issue along the way and it didn't migrate, we can actually figure out why all through these reports. Right, I thought I'd better just quickly cover pricing. We have three pricing plans, our starter, our full suite, and our pro plans. Everything that you've seen today is in our full suite plan, and that is by far our most popular. I think probably 90% of our customers around the world are using the full suite plan. And that would be certainly what I would recommend everyone at least starts with. If you need to change at any stage, that's not a problem. We can always change plans at the drop of a hat. What next? So, okay, we're getting to the pointy end and coming to the end of the presentation. So, yeah, what happens now? Well, if you like what you're seeing, I strongly recommend that you get a free 30-day trial. You're changing your file system. This is not something that you just sort of go to, say, a Xerocon and sign up then and there. It's something that you need to know is going to work for your business. It's a big decision. Moving all of your files from a file server or a document management solution to SuiteFiles. You want to make sure that SuiteFiles, or any system that you're going to use for that matter, is right for you, and it's going to give you the functionality that you really need. And the best way to do that is to try SuiteFiles out for 30 days. If you want to do that, it's really straightforward. You can sign up via our website. You fill in a form there, the trial information will get processed, and you'll get sent some instructions about what to do next. So as mentioned earlier on, you do need to have an Office 365 account. So part of those instructions is how to give us access to your Office 365 so that we can set SuiteFiles up for you and make sure everything is working correctly. Also, the team at Bridge 3 are going to follow up with everyone who's attended the webinar or registered for the webinar today. So yeah, if you need to have a conversation with people, that'll be your opportunity to do that, and they can certainly talk in great length and detail about SuiteFiles and how it all works. All right, questions, and there are some questions here, so let me just, I'm going to look at my other screen and make sure I can read them. Okay, so can I elaborate on the backup snapshot? Is it a full backup, which is a snapshot of file names and parameters? It is a full backup. So the first time we back up, we obviously back up everything that you've got in your SuiteFile system, and then every day after that, we're looking at the changes. But yes, it is a full backup, and the full versions of the files are available in that. Is there a performance hit with the SuiteFiles Outlook add-on? No, is the short answer. I'm just trying to think of what performance in particular you're talking about. Having the add-on there should not impact the performance of Outlook, and it certainly doesn't impact the flow of emails in and out of Outlook. Obviously, there are some extra tasks when you're managing or working in your inbox, because you've got to drag and drop your content from your inbox into SuiteFiles. But I wouldn't call that a performance hit. can I elaborate on the integration with SharePoint? Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I mentioned that SuiteFiles is built on Office 365 and we're using the file storage in Office 365 for that. For those of you who are technically minded and know about a bit about Office 365, that file storage system is called SharePoint. So that is where your files will be stored. What SuiteFiles does is provides a user interface to the SharePoint system that is actually faster than the SharePoint out of the box, and obviously a lot more targeted in that it's all about files. And we also provide the integration points with things like obviously the Xero Practice Manager and the email integration. So yes, we use SharePoint as the back end where all of your files are stored. I think it's also important to understand the Office 365 account is owned by you. You give us permission to access it, but you own the account. And that means that all the files that are sitting in the account are yours, of course, and they are in your Office 365 account. So if you ever decided for one reason or another that SuiteFiles was not going to be the system for you after having used it for a while, we can turn SuiteFiles off. And all we're doing is removing SuiteFiles from your Office 365 account. All of your files will still remain in the SharePoint system. That Office 365 account is still yours, and you've still got access to everything as you always had. And that's pretty much it about the SharePoint. Can we give clients access to certain folders? Not just yet. So that's something that we're working on. The whole idea of a client portal, and that's that's certainly something that will come. We can securely share files with our clients, but we can't give them access to folders just yet. How many accountants around the world have you as customers, and can we get references from them? Yeah, definitely. We can certainly help organise references as and when required. Accountants, we've got around about 400 accounting firms using SuiteFiles, predominantly in Australia. That's by far our biggest market. New Zealand is number 2. The UK is growing quickly. We also have clients in South Africa, in Canada, and in Singapore. Currently, I am using Accountancy Manager, which sends reminders to clients automatically. Can SuiteFiles do the same? I assume these reminders are about sort of email reminders. SuiteFiles doesn't have any functionality like that at the moment. So that would kind of be like a workflow type thing. SuiteFiles isn't really about workflows. It's about that file management side of things. That's not to say that down the track we may, whether we want to do anything around reminders to clients, but we don't have it at the moment. Okay, so this is probably a follow-on to our question that we had about SharePoint. What will happen to files in SharePoint that are already shared with clients if we install SuiteFiles? That's a very good question. I imagine, well, there's a couple of things here. So SuiteFiles, while it is built on SharePoint, does require a certain structure to be put in place. So anyone who is currently using SharePoint with Office 365 and wants to use SuiteFiles, the first thing that we do is have a good look at your SharePoint implementation and make sure, or have a look at what sort of structure it is set up in, and ensure that it's going to work with SuiteFiles. If it won't, then we will have a conversation with you around what needs to happen to that structure. Now, there's a couple of things that can happen. Most of the time, we actually end up doing a full restructure of the site and moving everything to another area of SharePoint where we can have it all standalone and a clean SuiteFiles installation. I'm also dealing with a client in Australia at the moment who actually have by pure coincidence, everything's set up exactly the same way that in structures that SuiteFiles does use, and I can simply put SuiteFiles over the top of it. Now, why did I say that? If you've got files that are shared with clients and they are not set up in the structures that SuiteFiles would use, we'd have to restructure things, and I'm pretty sure that would break all the sharing that you've got. If you've got if everything was structured the correct way, I imagine that those files would still be shared. I guess, yeah, I'm always very cautious around SharePoint's sharing features though, because there are some real gotchas that you need to be aware of when sharing files with external parties, that if you're not doing it properly, you can expose everything in your file system. And not just the file that you thought you were sharing. So yeah, I guess I'd need to have a look and see what you've done, and come and form an opinion from that. So, sorry, not a simple answer. There's a bit more to it. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions at this stage? All right. If that's everything we've got for now, I guess it's time to say thanks. So thank you very much for coming along today. I really do appreciate you taking an hour out of your mornings to hear about SuiteFiles and what we can do to help your business move your files to the cloud. If you want to contact us, yeah, we have a specific UK email address. It's just support-uk@suitefiles.com. You can also go to our website. Yeah, thank you again for coming along. As I mentioned, our friends at Bridge 3 will be in touch, and if you do have any other questions, yeah, please fire them through. As mentioned, also, this webinar has been recorded, so watch your inbox for a copy of that in the next day or so. I'm going to say good night because it's now well after my bedtime here in New Zealand, and I hope that you all on the other side of the world have a wonderful rest of your day.